Hey everyone, today's video is going to be about poppies. So poppies have a weird reputation of being both difficult and easy. Today I'm going to walk you through how I grew my poppies from seed. So I had a very specific area in mind for these poppies. The strip of land between the street and the sidewalk. I've heard it called a devil strip, and I absolutely love that name and will continue using that name. I find that this area is often overlooked, and I thought it would be a perfect area for the poppies. So I worked to prepare the area. I removed all the gravel from the devil strip, and as you can tell, it was highly compacted underneath. The biggest problem I continue to have is that my soil is dense clay. The problem is, once the clay dries, it hardens and makes it impossible for the roots to develop. So I added several bags of compost to provide some organic material and break up the clay. But let's be honest, you really can only do so much amending. At some point, you kind of have to just work with what you got. Also, I have no idea what I was doing with this useless rake. Could you do anything with that? So eventually I brought out the tiller, which helped break up the hardened clay. I don't normally bring out the tiller because it spreads seed, and I'm trying to do a lot of no-dig method. But if you look at my soil, did I really have an option? See what I mean? That's hardened clay. So I watered the area before I sowed the seeds so that they wouldn't float away when watered. Here's where things get tricky. So I've tried several different varieties of poppies before with meager results, with the exception of California poppies, which are an entirely different genus. But in the genus of Poppiver, I wanted to choose something that would work for my zone. I wasn't going to be a guinea pig on this one, not this project. So I remembered about an hour away from me is a poppy festival, and I decided to use the same poppies they use. I used a couple different poppy packets with different names, but they're nearly all the same. They might go under names like common poppy or corn poppy, field poppy, American Legion poppy, and finally the Flanders poppy, as in the Flanders region of Belgium, getting that name during the First World War. That was also the name that kind of just stuck with me. I also added this tall variety of bachelor's button as a sort of companion plant to the poppies. So the packets are serious when they say they do not transplant well. This is because the plants have a taproot, which does not take well to transplant. Heed the warnings in the labels and plant directly in the ground. So I sprinkled the seed around thinly, making sure not to clump any seed in any particular area. The seeds are so ridiculously tiny, so just do your best. After that, I stepped on every inch of the soil and pressed the seed in. I didn't cover the seed, I just pressed the seed in. Now here's the most important part. I kept the soil moist until I had seedlings. And weeds, but let's focus on the seedlings, everyone. So the first ones that came up were the bachelor's button, but soon after I had poppies, and many of them. When the poppies started, popping up, I added mulch to keep the soil moist. Most of the seed packets advise you to thin your seedlings out, which I clearly could have benefited from, but I didn't dare upset whatever was happening here. All I knew was that the plants were growing and I wasn't about to remove any. So I just let them figure out their power dynamic on their own. And for a while, it kind of started looking like I was growing veggies or greens or something. But then something started happening to the poppies in December. I was away for a couple of weeks and they weren't being watered. I thought this would be okay because I've been under the impression that they're drought tolerant, and maybe they are. But flashback to my rock hard soil and I have a feeling that the clay solidified, affecting the roots and ultimately affecting nutrient uptake, which resulted in these beautifully vibrant leaves. Pretty, but not ideal for the health of the plant. So I continued the old schedule of watering when the top inch of the soil is dry. I also applied a weak, general purpose fertilizer, which was basically balanced NPK numbers. Well, I have good news. Healthy growth resumed, and the problem seemed to be corrected. The problem never seemed to affect the bachelor's button. This tall variety continued to grow quite vigorously, and was very pleased with their growth. Nice, healthy leaves ultimately resulted in my first poppy buds of the season. And I probably started screaming when I first saw this. But with that, the first poppy flowers arrived in their beautiful airiness. It's amazing, with a couple of seed packets, you can create a reliable source of pollen for so many critters out there. Butterflies seem to love the bachelor button the most, while bees seem to be keen on the poppies, and that's probably because of the open petals allow for easy access to the pollen. In early March, the display began to fill out. You'll notice part of the strip was more vigorous. I think because there is a very slight decline, and the poppies on the bottom of that decline may have received a little more water than the others. But either way, by April, this small strip of land was bursting with color and was exactly as I had hoped. I think the bachelor's buttons were the perfect companion to the poppies. They provided the same airiness that I desired from the poppies. The best part was going outside and discovering how different the poppy flowers could look. Even as the Texas heat began to encroach, and let me tell you, it encroaches, the poppies were still blooming. When one plant finished, another was ready to take its place. But the display wasn't without some maintenance. I would, from time to time, clean it up a bit and remove some of the dead stems. Oh, and sorry, when I'm working in the garden, I have resting you-know-what face. So I try to keep up with the weeds, but honestly, once they reached a certain height, I kind of gave up. I probably should have watered this area before attempting to weed, but I think it gives you an idea of how aggressive this Bermuda grass and other weeds that I have can be. As always, try your best to get to the root system when digging out a weed. And I know it's not always possible, but my theory is removing a huge chunk of weed is still better than nothing. Oop, there goes a floating cottonwood seed, probably trying to start a tree in the middle of my poppies. And I even spotted a few larkspur from seed that I randomly added. But as April went on and the Texas heat grew, I noticed more and more flowers becoming seed pods. Some of the plants began to desiccate and fall down, but that gave me a good look at the stem development. There's something quite beautiful about poppy seed pods. And yes, I collected a ton of seed pods, which ultimately maybe saved me $2. But I also fully expect this area to reseed itself in the fall. Oh hey, these better look familiar to you now. Actually, I was lying about the bees preferring poppies because honestly, they love everything. I even found a few surprises for my other bed. Some Rudbeckia began spreading over here. As April went on and the poppies completely faded, I was greeted to a sea of just bachelor buttons and a few Rudbeckia mixed in. Now I'm at the end of the season for these flowers, and I'm so appreciative of them. I think a lot of people enjoyed them, and that's all I can hope for. I saw many people taking selfies in front of them, people taking pictures of their babies in front of them. The butterflies, moths, and other critters have loved the pollen. Birds are now enjoying the seed. I even think about the roly-polies doing their part to decompose the root systems of the dying plants. A small plot of land, even with the name Devil Strip, can benefit thousands of critters. So if you've watched this video this far and have yet to subscribe, what on earth are you doing? Please give me a comment or a like if you've enjoyed today's video. It goes a long way. You can also find me on Instagram @Botanical if you just can't get enough. Get your hands in some soil. I'll see you in the next video.